Hi, I'm Sarah Martinez, and this is the story of how my mother-in-law's attempt to destroy my career accidentally launched me into the tech industry spotlight. For 10 years, I lived in the shadow of my husband's family, the Andersons. They were the epitome of traditional success. Doctors, lawyers, and business executives who measured worth by university degrees and country club memberships. And then there was me, the outsider. A self-taught programmer who preferred coding late into the night rather than attending their lavish social gatherings. When will you get a real job? My mother-in-law, Margaret, would sneer during our mandatory Sunday dinners. Programming is for young men in Silicon Valley, dear, not for a woman your age. My husband, David, a polished corporate lawyer, would just smile awkwardly and change the subject. He never truly understood my passion for coding. To his family, it was nothing more than a hobby. But what they didn't know was that I had been working in secret for 10 years on something revolutionary.It began when I volunteered at a community center, teaching coding to underprivileged kids. I noticed how hard it was for them to grasp complex concepts using traditional methods. So I started building an AI-powered educational platform that could adapt to each student's learning style, turning coding into an interactive game. I called it CodMind. 5 years went into perfecting the AI engine. 3 more into building educational modules. 2 more into designing the gaming interface. 10 years of work. Thousands of hours. My life's passion. I stored everything on my personal computer and one external hard drive. No cloud backups. Paranoia told me to keep it offline until I secured a patent. That decision nearly cost me everything. Last month, Margaret made one of her infamous surprise visits. I returned home to find my office disturbed. Computer moved, papers shuffled, and my external drive gone. "Oh, that old thing?" Margaret said casually when I asked. "It was just gathering dust, so I deleted everything and tossed it in the donation box. You should thank me. Your office looks much more presentable now." My world stopped. "You've what?" I whispered. David barely looked up from his phone. "Mom was just trying to help. You've been wasting too much time on those computer games anyway. Maybe this is a sign to do something more productive." Margaret smirked. "Exactly. Now you can focus on starting a family. That's what a woman your age should be thinking about." I stood frozen, trembling. 10 years of work. Gone. When I checked my computer, I realized she had even deleted my local files. To her, it was just some computer games. She patted my shoulder and laughed. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even respond. Instead, I walked out, got into my car, and drove to the only place I could think clearly, the community center. What Margaret didn't know was that just 3 days earlier I had filed for patent review on CodMind, sent demo videos to several major tech companies, received an email that very morning from Microsoft's head of educational technology. So I picked up the phone and made 3 calls. My patent attorney, a data recovery specialist I trusted, and finally, the confidential number in Microsoft's email. "Hello, this is Sarah Martinez," I said. "Yes, I received your email about CodMind. I can't send the current build, but you'll be very interested in what happened to it. How soon can we meet?" The next 3 days changed everything, not just for me but for the entire Anderson family. While Margaret bragged to her country club friends that she had finally broken my computer game addiction, I was orchestrating the comeback of a lifetime. The data recovery specialist worked nonstop. "Deleted doesn't mean gone," he told me. "Your mother-in-law may have wiped the drives, but the architecture is still there. We just need time." Time I didn't have. Microsoft's team was flying in for a demonstration. But sometimes pressure creates diamonds. In 72 hours, we recovered nearly 60% of my code, enough to rebuild the core AI engine. Then something amazing happened. My former students, now successful programmers themselves, showed up to help. Together we rebuilt CodMind. By the time Microsoft CEO walked into my living room 3 days later, the Andersons finally understood what I had been working on all these years. Margaret thought she had destroyed my computer games. In reality, she had catapulted me into the spotlight of the global tech industry. And the Andersons? They would never look at me or a real job the same way again. We worked in shifts, reconstructing modules, rewriting algorithms, and piecing together years of work. "You taught us never to give up," said Maria, one of my first students, now a senior developer at Google. "We're not letting you give up either." The morning Microsoft was due to arrive, I finally went home to change. David and Margaret were at the breakfast table sipping tea. "She's been having a breakdown over her lost game files," Margaret said, stirring her cup. "I scheduled her for an appointment with Dr. Peterson. He's an excellent therapist. This obsession with computers isn't healthy." "That won't be necessary," I said calmly, pouring myself coffee. "But you should both be here at 2 p.m. We're having company." Margaret perked up. "Oh, finally joining one of my charity committees?" I smiled. "Something like that." At exactly 2 p.m., 3 sleek black SUVs pulled into the driveway. David, who had stayed home out of concern for my mental state, looked confused as Microsoft CEO, Sarah Thompson, stepped out, flanked by her executive team. "Mrs. Martinez," she said warmly, shaking my hand, "we're very excited about this demonstration. Though I must admit, your email about recent events intrigued me even more than the original proposal." Margaret nearly dropped her teacup. I led them into my office, restored and humming with life again. CodMind was rebuilt and ready to go. But before I began, I had something to say. "Before we start," I said, addressing the room, "I want to thank my mother-in-law, Margaret. 3 days ago she deleted my entire project thinking it was just computer games. She taught me a valuable lesson, about backing up data, and about family." Margaret's face drained of color. David opened his mouth, then shut it again under Sarah Thompson's gaze. "What you're about to see," I continued, "is an AI-powered educational platform that adapts to each student's learning style. It turns complex programming concepts into interactive games. We've tested it with over 500 students across the city. The results are extraordinary." For the next hour I walked them through CodMind. The AI adapted in real time as student avatars solved increasingly complex challenges. I showed them the data. 80% improvement in retention. 90% engagement rate. 70% increase in girls and minorities pursuing programming. Sarah Thompson leaned forward. "This is revolutionary. Exactly what we've been looking for. Mrs. Martinez, we'd like to acquire CodMind for $50 million, with you as Chief Innovation Officer." The room fell silent. "50 million? Margaret whispered, eyes wide. I smiled. "Actually, I had something else in mind. Instead of selling, I want a partnership. Microsoft's distribution and resources, combined with my innovation. Together we reach every student who wants to learn." Sarah thought for a moment. Then she smiled. 70 million. We take 40%. You retain control. We fund coding centers in underserved communities." "Deal," I said. As contracts were drafted, Margaret tried to backpedal. "Darling, I had no idea. I was only trying to help. You know I've always supported your career." "Save it," I said quietly. "But don't worry. I'm opening a coding center right next to your country club. Free classes for everyone. And yes, every student will be playing my computer games." The story spread like wildfire. The woman whose mother-in-law deleted her life's work, only for it to rise stronger than ever. Microsoft's stock rose 3% the day our partnership was announced. David moved out 3 months later, finally realizing we wanted very different things. Margaret still shows up at tech events, trying to claim credit for inspiring me. I let her. Because I've learned something. Success is the best revenge. Today CodMind is used in schools and community centers worldwide. Every time I see a young girl realize she can code, or a student from a tough neighborhood discover their potential, I think about those desperate 3 days when everything seemed lost. Sometimes people try to destroy what they don't understand. But they forget that programmers are really good at one thing: building something better from the crashes. Last week, I received an invitation to give the commencement speech at Margaret's alma mater. The topic? Women in Tech, Breaking Barriers and Breaking Free. I accepted, of course. After all, I have quite a story to tell, about how sometimes the best code comes from the worst crashes, and how the delete key isn't always the end. Sometimes it's just the beginning. Now, as I sit in my new office overlooking Seattle, I glance at the 3 things on my desk. The very first lines of code I ever wrote, framed. An award for Most Innovative Educational Technology of the Year. And a small sign that reads, Error 404, Glass Ceiling Not Found. Because the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting ahead. And bringing others with you. That's a program worth running.